بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين. السلام على النساء الحائرات، السلام على النفوس المصطلمات، السلام على الرؤوس المشالات، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. The eve of the 11th of Muharram was much more difficult than the eve of the 10th of Muharram. مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام. Lady Zainab was ordered by Imam al-Hussein to go back to the tent. The pretext was to take care of the children. But Lady Zainab shouldn't witness the tragedy. Lady Zainab, who had seen Imam al-Hussein sit on the chest of Rasulullah, could not see Shimr sitting on the chest of Hussein. Even though Lady Zainab had seen the broken rib of her mother, she had seen the head of her father that was struck with a sword, she had seen her brother Imam al-Hassan when he was poisoned, but she couldn't see the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So she had to go back to the tent. She was sitting with Imam Zayn al-Abidin when all of a sudden the weather changed. Lady Zainab can't see, but Imam Zayn al-Abidin can. He's different, he's an imam. So she asks him, Ya ibn akhi, what's happening? What's going on? Imam Zayn al-Abidin didn't tell her what was going on, but he kept it in his heart. Only when he went to the court of Yazid, he said it. Even though ostensibly he wasn't there to witness it, but he knew exactly what happened. When he went to the court of Yazid, he said, أَنَا ابْنُ الْمَذْبُوحِ مِنَ الْقَفَى. This is something you wouldn't do to an animal. You would never slaughter an animal from the back of its neck. What he told Lady Zainab is to remove the side of the tent and to see, because eventually she'll know. She'll see everything. She removed the side of the tent. He told her, Amma hada ra'su abi. Some people say that Imam al-Hussein never had a tashyi', but he had a tashyi'. How? By carrying his head on a long spear. After that, Umar ibn Sa'd said we have to follow the orders of the Emir Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. What were his orders? To crush the bodies under the hooves of the horses. Imam al-Hussein had collected all the bodies of his companions and the bodies of his relatives. He had placed the bodies of his companions in one tent, the tent of the martyrs, the shuhada, and the bodies of his relatives in another tent, the tent of Ahlul Bayt. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam says in one hadith, he says that a mu'min can be tried and trialed in many ways. A mu'min can see every form of hardship in this world, but will never become blind. His basira will never become blind. And then he says that Imam al-Hussein collected all the bodies and he placed them on top of each other. And the Imam used to say, قَتْلَانَا قَتْلَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَآلِ النَّبِيِّينَ. Our martyrs are the martyrs of the prophets and the family members of the prophets. So now they want to stomp over the bodies. Only 2 bodies were left on the sand dunes. The body of Abu al-Fadl Abbas and the body of Imam al-Hussein. Al-Fadl Abbas was killed near the Euphrates. I don't know if they stomped over his body or not, but what I do know is that when you visit the actual grave of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, even though he was very tall, they say that he was so tall that his legs would touch the ground when he was on his horse, on the back of his horse. But his grave is tiny. You know why? Because they mutilated the body, cutting his legs and his hands. This is why his grave is so tiny. And then you have the body of Imam al-Hussein. So what they did was they went to the tent of the martyrs and the tent of the family members of Imam al-Hussein, and they took all the bodies and then they threw them back in the battlefield. 10 horsemen, they volunteered to step over the bodies, to crush them. Now, horses don't usually step over a body. Horses usually jump. They don't stomp, they don't step over the body. So what these people did was they closed the eyes of the horses so they wouldn't see what they're doing. They would come next to the body and then they would pull one side of the rein of the horse to make the horse fall on the body, to crush it. This is why they were called Al-Jaafaria. One poet, in the presence of Imam al-Sadiq, he recited these lines. He said, مَا لَذَّ عَيْشٌ بَعْدَ رَضِّكَ بِالْجِيَادِ الْأَعْوَجِيَّ. How can I enjoy my life after hearing what they did? Brothers and sisters, this is why Imam al-Zaman says that if I wasn't there to support you, what I will do is I will shed blood instead of tears. And I will remain in that state forever. وَلَوْعَةِ الْإِكْتِئَابِ. And the reason why we need to hear about his sufferings is because Imam al-Hussein was killed, so we hold on to our religion, so we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we get to know the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, to value our religion more. So they stomped over the bodies, crushing every rib, breaking every bone. And then after doing this, you should leave the bodies. Enough is enough, just leave them. No. They come down from their horses to flip the bodies, because Ubaydullah had said, وَأَوْطِئِ الْخَيْلَ صَدْرَهُ وَظَهْرَهُ. Now is the turn of the back to crush their backs, all of them. Lady Zainab was sitting in the tent, even though she couldn't see, but she was trying to see through her ears. She was trying to imagine what's taking place in the battlefield. She asks Imam Zayn al-Abidin that I hear weird sounds, weird noises coming from the battlefield, like jars being broken. He said, عَمَّ مَا هَذِهِ قَوَارِيرْ تَتَكَسَّرْ. These are the ribs of my father. These are the bones of my father Hussein. And then Sayyidah Zainab should stay in the tent. She remained in the tent. All of a sudden, they hear the sound of the horses coming to the tents. On the eve of Ashura, this scene happened on the eve of Ashura. The horses came. When they heard the sounds of the horses, Lady Zainab comes to Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein was taking a nap. So she says, Akhi Aba Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein wakes up. She says that I can hear the sounds of the horses around the tent. So he says, Akhi Aba al-Fadl, irkab binafsi. He talked to them and they postponed the fight until tomorrow. So Lady Zainab was ordered to stay in the tent until Imam al-Hussein is killed. But now when the horses approach the camp, Lady Zainab either spontaneously, because she was so dependent on Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, she comes out of the tent and she pleads with her brother Imam al-Hussein. Or she had hope that her brother is still alive. And the only thing that could bring her brother back is if he hears that the horses are raiding the tent. Why? Because Imam al-Hussein's poem while he was fighting was, in أنا الحسين بن علي أحمي عيالات أبي. I am here to protect the families of my father, the family of my father. So Imam al-Hussein would never let that happen. If he's still alive, he would never let the horses raid the tents. He would never let that happen. This is why Sayyidah Zainab goes out. And she calls out, أخي إن كنت حيا فأجبنا. If you're still alive, listen to me. Please respond to me. Why? فهذه الخيل قد هجمت علينا. These horses, they've raided the tents, Ya Hussein. When the Imam went to drink water, he was able to. There were 4,000 people guarding the Euphrates. When the Imam went, he was able to go to inside the water. But then one man said to him, أتلتذ بالماء وقد هتك حرمك. You are drinking from that water while your family and children are being, we've raided their tents. So the Imam threw the water back in the river and he went back. He was still thirsty just because of this reason. And even when he was about to be slaughtered, he was looking at the tent so that they wouldn't approach the tents. This is why, brothers and sisters, usually when a mu'min dies, this is a big relief. A big relief from all the pains, from all the miseries of life. When you die, everything comes to an end, right? If you're a mu'min. But Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam wasn't like that. Imam al-Hussein, Lady Zainab, said these words, بِأَبِي الْمَقْتُولِ بِأَبِي الظَّمْآنِ حَتَّى قَضَى بِأَبِي الْمَهْمُومِ حَتَّى مَضَى. Yani when he was about to die and surrender his soul, the Imam was depressed. Why? Because he knows that the calamity and the tragedy will only begin after he dies. This is why even after his death, the Imam wasn't happy. Even after joining his mother, joining his father, joining Rasulullah, the Imam wasn't happy because he knows what will take place, what will befall on his family and his children. So Lady Zainab said, إن كنت حيا فأجبنا. If you're alive, come to our rescue. وإن كنت ميتا, I have nothing else to say. فأمرنا وأمرك إلى الله. When they came inside the tent, suddenly, even though the children were all in the tents, one of them called, one of them said, started yelling, أحرقوا بيوت الظالمين. Burn the houses of the oppressors. So they started burning all the tents. When the tents caught fire, Lady Zainab comes back to the tent. She asks Imam Zayn al-Abidin, in my opinion, the reason why she asked Imam Zayn al-Abidin is she was trying to know if she is supposed to die as well, if she is supposed to be killed as well. And in my opinion, it was a relief for Lady Zainab. She wanted to join Imam al-Hussein. But she asks Imam Zayn al-Abidin, should we stay? Should we die from the fire? The Imam said, no. Amma, there are still a lot of tragedies that you have to witness. عَلَيْكُنَّ بِالْفِرَارِ. You should run because all the children would follow Lady Zainab. This is why she had to run. Then the looting began. Historians tell us that they even stole the rope of the tents. This is how miserable these people were. They started looting their scarves, looting their everything that they had, even the earrings of the little girls. They wouldn't remove it delicately. They would rip the ears to take the earring. After all of that, historians tell us that 40 kids died in the stampede from the fire, from the attack of the enemies. And Lady Zainab started to look or to collect all the kids. She found 2 kids. One of them was Hamida, the daughter of Muslim. She had hugged another child and they had both died together. I don't know why, how. Was it because of the fire? Was it because of the fear? Was it because of the attacks of the enemies? It's beyond me. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but I know that they were 70 in total, the women and the children. When they returned, there were only 40. So they left 40 in Karbala, dead in Karbala. So after this, they bring water to the tents. But no one wants to drink from the water. No one wants to drink from the water. One of the kids said that my uncle Abbas was supposed to bring the water, not these enemies. This is why they brought the water. They gave it to Lady Zainab. Lady Zainab gave it to Rubab. Rubab gave it to Kulthum. Kulthum gave it to one of the kids who was there. One of the kids gave it to Sukaina until it reached Fatima bint al-Hussein, who historians say she was probably 5. She was probably Sayyidah Ruqayyah. She takes the water instead of drinking it, even though she was very thirsty, but she goes to the battlefield. They tell her, where are you going? She said that I heard my father saying, بُحَقْ جَدِّي أَنَا عَطْشَانٌ. They told her that your father is not here anymore. So she spilled the water. I'll just mention two more things about the aftermath. One is Rubab. Rubab, even though her son, Abdullah Radi' was killed, but she never came out of the tent. She didn't want to add any anguish to the heart of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, as if she wasn't even there. She didn't have any milk to breastfeed her child. The milk had dried up in her breast. But now that they brought water, and all the women, all the children, Lady Zainab, later on, she asked Abu al-Fadl Abbas for forgiveness. She said that if it wasn't for the kids who said that we won't drink water until you drink, I wouldn't have drank from the water. Never. So now, Rubab, after drinking from the water, now she has milk. Mothers understand this. Now that she has milk, whenever she feels that she has enough milk in her breast, she knows that the child is hungry. Lady Zainab, all of a sudden, she notices that Rubab is not in the tent. So she looks for Rubab, but she can't find her. She calls Rubab, Rubab. Rubab is not there. She comes out of the tent asking one of the guards who was there, did you see a woman roaming around in the battle? She said, yes. He said, yes, I saw a woman going into the battlefield. Really? He said, yes. So she goes to the battlefield. She sees a woman roaming around, looking for something between the bodies. So she goes and she realizes that this is Rubab. She tells her, Rubab, is this you? She said, yes. She said, why are you here? I'm looking for you. She said, درًا يبت حيدر ثداياي جيت أرضع ابني الماء شرب ماي. I came to breastfeed my son علي الأصغر. يا ثار عند حرملة وياي. They say that the middle of the night, after calming down all the kids, after all the women were resting inside the tent, Lady Zainab secretly goes to the battlefield. She goes to the battlefield looking for the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. But how can she recognize, distinguish the body of Imam al-Hussein from all the other bodies that were there? She sees a pile of swords, daggers, stones, pebbles, spears, arrows on one body. So she says, maybe this is the body of my brother Hussein. So she goes there, she plucks all the arrows, she removes all the stones until she reaches the body. She sees the body of a child next to this body, who is Abdullah ibn al-Hasan. But if this body doesn't belong to Hussein, then she is na mahram to that person. This is why she says, أَأَنْتَ أَخِي, are you my son of my father, Ali ibn Abi Talib? أَأَنْتَ أَخِي, أَأَنْتَ ibn walidi. And she realizes that this is the body of Imam al-Hussein because it had all the wounds. Some historians say that there were 1,400 wounds on the body of Imam al-Hussein. But Imam al-Baqir says that there were 70 wounds on the body of Imam al-Hussein. And then the Imam clarifies saying, كانت والله الضربة فوق الضربة والطعنة فوق الطعنة. They struck the Imam several times on one area. Then she begins to speak to the Imam. When Sukaina realizes that Amma Zainab is not in the tent, if Amma Zainab is dead, then we're all gonna die. So she leaves the tent, she goes to the battlefield, she sees that Zainab is talking to a body, but she couldn't recognize the body as well. Because you would either recognize the body through the head, and the Imam was headless, or through the ring. They had severed the finger of the Imam to remove the ring of Imam al-Hussein. Or through the clothes, and they had looted even the clothes of Imam al-Hussein. Amma man tukallimin. She said that this is the body of your father Hussein. So Sukaina, look at how much ma'rifah she had. Instead of talking about her own tragedies, her own calamities, she said, Abah, unzur ila ru'usina al-makshufa. Oh Father Hussein, look at our heads, we don't have scarves. أباه انظر إلى عمتي المضروبة. And look at my auntie Zainab, how much they lashed her. ولا حول